Consecrating the madness. Topic of my talk. A couple of words about how I came to this topic. Christine Kane. She's a phenomenal lyricist and songwriter. She wrote a song called Overjoyed. It was in an album she put out in 2004. And I was captivated by one of the lyrics, the one that's highlighted. Used to be a race to see just who'd get there the fastest, but this frozen night, it's only right to consecrate the madness. And that consecrate the madness was an idea that really captivated and resonated with me very, very deeply. And in TED, when you're given the preparatory materials, you're encouraged to take emotional risks. Well, that part's easy. I mean, just walking out on the stage, it's an emotional risk, right? But I wanted a talk that would be something I hadn't done before and perhaps would stretch me a little bit. And I thought it would be fun to talk about this distinction of consecrating the madness and use as a backdrop for it my experience here. So 5 weeks ago tomorrow, I was on the Big Island of Hawaii getting ready to compete in the Ironman World Championships. That's me there in the red cap, you could see. Over there by the car in the water. So it was a 25-year goal that I'd had to be there. It's a race that you do need to qualify for. I'd been wanting to for 25 years. 25 years ago, I was nowhere near good enough. It took me 25 years in order to get to a level where I could actually qualify, which I did a year ago in Madison. I was in the Madison Ironman, first one that I'd done. Placed fourth out of 139 men in my age group, which allowed me to get a ticket to Kona. So there I was, entering the water, and it was you can see it's not like the starting line is right at the water. You actually have to swim out about 150 yards, and then you're swimming. Treading water, kind of closely packed in with a lot of people. It's a situation that is, could be somewhat stressful. In fact, I think it really was the most stressful time of the race. Another complicating factor, 10 days before the race, I broke the toe in my left foot. So this is one of those go-figure things. I'm 52 years old. I've been a hang glider pilot. I've done marathons. I've technical rock climbed. I've done all sorts of extreme things. Never broke a bone in my body in my entire life. 10 days before the biggest race of my life, break the big toe on my left foot. So I'm there just with this complication in the water, awaiting the race to begin, along with the other 2,000 endurance mutant junkies who are out there. And there's something else that is going on that I want to talk about as it relates to consecrating the madness. So here you are, and show of hands, anybody else out there notice that you have voices inside of you? Show of hands. Okay, good. So one voice. Two voices, anybody? Two? Show of hands, 3 voices. How about 4? Okay, so I'm going to talk in this talk about 4 that I was dealing with during the Ironman triathlon. I think that we all have. And it relates very, very clearly to consecrating the madness. So a little bit of theory. Each of these voices has a narrator or a narrative. The body. The body has a voice, and it speaks sensorily. Says things like ouch and and ooh, right? But it has a voice. It's a very clear voice. Our emotions also have a powerful voice, and it speaks through the language of feeling. And it says things like scary and rage and joy. And then we also have a mind. The mind has its own voice, and it never shuts up. It is constantly taking in data points and minting interpretations, constantly judging, opining, minting interpretations and judging everything. And the thing about everything is there's so much of it. So then there's spirit. Spirit is like that calm core, right? It's that place that when you return there, when you find yourself there, you're grounded. So those are the four narratives that are occurring, and there's this other concept I'll throw in of the microphone. The microphone is a metaphor for awareness. So at any given moment, and often dictated by circumstance, you'll find yourself located in one of those voices, located in your physical, in your body, located in your emotional, or in your judgments or opinions, or in your spiritual. And the mic is a metaphor for which aspect of who you are has got hold of your attention. Whichever aspect has your attention is likely to be dictating your experience in that moment, and also likely to have something to do with the actions that you even see to take. So, back to the race. Here we are, still waiting for the start. It does seem like forever, and it is the most stressful part of the race. You're charged up with adrenaline, enough to get you through 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles of biking, and a 26-mile run. And you're treading water in close proximity. Now, you can imagine those four voices, those four narratives are very, very active at this time when you're still. My body at the time was weighing in with, what's the toe, what's the toe, what's the toe? Right? My emotions were registering a certain amount of fear and excitement. My mind was wreaking havoc on both the body and the emotions with images and ideas about what might happen. Some of these were almost comedic in their nature, and it looked something like this. The mind speaking, of course. Are we sure about this? I mean, have you really thought this through? Are we seriously going to swim 2.4 miles in the open ocean in 90 feet of water, dressed up like seals? I mean, have you thought this through, really? I mean, this is the open ocean. This is Hawaii. I mean, things do happen out there. This could be you. That's the mind. So, of course, the body, the body and the emotions are just quivering in fear, huddled together, listening to this. Now, this is all happening, and the race hadn't even started yet. So then, the gun goes off, and all hell breaks loose. That's me in the red cap. My favorite part of this picture is that guy in the kayak. Look at the expression on his face. He's like, yeehaw! So in this moment, this is where I refer to this is the moment of consecrating the madness. At this point, what can you do? You're in the middle of that, getting pummeled, trying to survive. There's nothing to do but consecrate the madness. And it literally I experienced it as a dropping, a handing of the mic from all those other nattering conversations into the heart of spirit, where the clarity was. The clarity about, what was I here for? The clarity about the passion that got me there. The clarity about the passion that I have for the sport. So in consecrating the madness, this magical shift occurs where the same circumstances that moments before you may have experienced as dicey or dire, I don't want to die here, are suddenly experienced as exhilarating, as energizing. So that experience that carried me through the swim. I stayed grounded in spirit. I was off and running. The body quieted down its conversation. It was pretty busy, swimming. The mind calms down too, and you're just engaged. I was free to engage in the activity of the race. I completed the race, or I completed the swim, and had a great swim. I was under the time that I had targeted. Went into transition 1, redressed the broken toe, and I was off on the bike. The bike leg in Kona is famous for two things, heat and wind. Temperatures can top 100 degrees. As you can see, it's black lava everywhere that you're riding across. It retains a lot of heat. It's hot in Hawaii. So it's hot, and the crosswinds are generally going between 20 and 30 miles an hour across this section. As you head up to the turnaround in a little town called Javi, there's a 800-foot ascent over about 4 miles in which we were going into about a 30-mile-an-hour headwind. So it's like you're going uphill into a blast furnace. So at this point, still, spirit firmly in control of the mic. There were conversations going on loud. Mostly, I have some competitive nature, obviously, doing these things. I pride myself on being a strong cyclist. I rarely get passed in a triathlon on the bike. It's one of my kind of pride points. But here I am in Kona with 129 of the best athletes in the world. I got passed 7 times. Each time, a little judgment coming down from the mind. You're losing it. Something's wrong. Kept having to remind myself, this is a world-class field. This is all the people from the entire planet in this age group who I'm competing with. So spirit stayed in firm command of the mic throughout the bike. I had a really strong bike split, back into transition 2, redressed the broken toe, and now all that's left is the marathon. The marathon in Hawaii is the same conditions. It's hot and it's windy. It's a long day. An Ironman triathlon is a very, very long day. It's expected that you're going to have high points and low points. The start of the marathon was definitely the low point for me. This is where the grip on the mic that Spirit had to that point was losing its grip. The body at that point was saying, stop. Stop, this hurts. Stop, this hurts. Stop, this hurts. Pretty much that's what the body was saying. The emotions were experiencing disappointment, frustration, that my goal was slipping away. The mind was having a field day with all of this, of course, with its judgments, interpretations, and opinions, and it was saying things like, the ocean is right there. What are you trying to prove? This is just a victory lap anyway. You don't need to finish this thing. Just quit. You can blame the broken toe. And the body is like, oh yeah, blame the broken toe. So, that nattering continued, and at those points, consecrating the madness takes a different form. It's put one foot in front of the other and trust. People often report doing these that you really discover during those moments what you're made of and what it is to be sourcing your action from spirit, because body ain't doing it. The emotions aren't doing it. Certainly the mind isn't helping out. It's literally you're being driven and generating your action from your heart of hearts, from your spirit. So I was in almost a chant during that 5-mile stretch where my pace dropped down to over 11 minutes a mile. And it was just one step in front of the other. Never give up, never give up, never give up. It took about 5 miles, and I started to experience a recovery at a physical level. My body started to kind of get back in the game. My pace began to pick up. My pace actually dropped in the second 5 miles from a 11-minute pace down to about a 9:10 pace. So I had a significant recovery. I was feeling a resurgence. And it continued to build, actually, through the remainder of the race. The conditions didn't get any easier. There's hydration stations every mile, and you need them. They ran a marathon. Remember when they canceled the marathon in Chicago because of the heat? Kona, it's hotter than that, except they don't cancel it. And you just biked 112 miles. So it's pretty nutty. So I had the last 9-mile stretch of the run. I actually dropped my pace down to 8:32. Finished very strong. Was very happy with how I finished. That I finished. That's me crossing the finish line. One of my goals was to finish before dark. it isn't really dark. And that isn't the sun. It's not the moon either, but it was getting dark, but it wasn't all the way dark. Finishing time was 11 hours, 21 minutes, 26 seconds. And I was very, very happy, very pleased with that. Just by way of comparison, here's the 2011 winner, Craig Alexander. Record time that year of 8 hours, 3 minutes, and 56 seconds. I almost had him. I was right there. Now, he has an unfair advantage. Note the shark repelling suit. Don't know how he manages to swim in that thing, but apparently it seems to work. But that's the gap between the amateurs and the pros. So points here on consecrating the madness. Consecrating the madness starts with recognizing, where'd that go? It's not supposed to do that. Starts with recognizing our innate capacity to select or choose where our awareness is being generated from. Which begins with simply observing where it is located, where it's being generated from in a given moment. As soon as you are able to isolate, identify, and locate, wow, I'm in my head, the possibility opens up of shifting out of it. One key to that is identifying which narrator has the mic. Who's speaking? With awareness comes the ability to hand the mic back to spirit, back to the generative core of our being, back to the place within us that is not governed by external circumstance, but by the internal impassioned commitments, intentions, and desires. Consecrating the madness means being entertained by the three narratives. I sometimes refer to them as the three stooges. The three narratives that being entertained by them rather than being run over, run ragged, or disrupted by them. In consecrating the madness, a shift occurs. The same circumstances that you might have experienced, or that I certainly experienced as dire or threatening, can be experienced as louder, energizing, even exhilarating. And the last point I forgot to make, and it's the last but not least, so I might as well make it now. It's a bit of a non sequitur, granted. If you're ever in a triathlon, if you ever find yourself in one, there's one cardinal rule: never borrow anyone else's wetsuit. Never borrow anyone else's wetsuit. Clear about that? No matter what, don't borrow anyone else's wetsuit. You know all those people you see getting in the water before the race starts and getting in and going around and swimming a little bit and waiting around and warming up? They're warming up. Don't borrow anyone's wetsuit. And that is the last but not least point. Thank you for your attention and time.